Hello, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation on the Child and Adult Care Food Program Performance Standards. In our CACFP Overview and Benefits presentation, we provided you with background information on what the CACFP is, how it works, who can participate, and the benefits of participation. If you have not already listened to that presentation, please do so now. In this presentation, we will cover the Child and Adult Care Food Program performance standards for participating institutions and facilities. These performance standards are described in the federal CACFP regulations and apply to all participating organizations. To recap from the CACFP Overview and Benefits presentation, many types of organizations are eligible to participate in the CACFP. Child care centers, family daycare homes, adult daycare centers, after-school programs, and emergency shelters are the 5 main program types that can participate in the CACFP. Many for-profit businesses and all nonprofit organizations are eligible to participate. And participating institutions may either be sponsoring organizations with multiple facilities under their sponsorship, or institutions may participate as a single independent center. So, as you know, many different types of organization can participate in the CACFP, but regardless of program type, tax status, or number of locations, all institutions and facilities must be VCA. And what is VCA, you may be asking? VCA is an acronym that we commonly use to refer to the 3 CACFP performance standards, which are financial viability, the V, administrative capability, the C, and accountability, the A, VCA. The next few slides will describe what each standard means. Financial viability is all about money, and more specifically, having enough of it. Financial viability means that you have adequate financial resources to maintain normal operations. That includes feeding participants nutritious meals that comply with the regulations, paying your staff, and meeting other financial obligations like rent and utilities. You need to have enough financial reserves that you can meet the requirements and pay your bills, even when CACFP reimbursements are delayed or when other sources of income are delayed or reduced. Not getting your subsidy payment on time is not an excuse to stop paying your caterer or stop feeding kids complete meals. You also have to be able to cover any difference between cost and reimbursements. As we discussed in the last presentation, CACFP reimbursements are not based on your actual costs. Your CACFP reimbursements may be able to cover most or maybe even all of the costs associated with meeting CACFP requirements, but many participants cannot cover all of the costs from CACFP reimbursements alone. You need to budget your costs and identify other available funding sources to make up the difference. There are also some situations in which you may need to repay some money to the state agency. For example, if you claim more meals than you can verify serving, or if we determine that the meals served did not meet the requirements, then you have to return the money that you received for those meals. You have to have enough money to be able to repay what you need to owe. Administrative capability refers to your ability to feed participants in compliance with the CACFP regulations, which are spelled out in Title VII of the Code of Federal Regulations in Chapter 226. Administrative capability means that your institution or facility has an adequate number of qualified and trained staff members to meet all CACFP requirements. The exact number of staff members depends on the size of your organization and how work is delegated and performed. It is up to your organization to decide how to delegate the responsibilities and meet the requirements. Those decisions should be documented in a management plan. We require you to develop a basic management plan as part of your application. At a minimum, you have to specify who will do the various required tasks. We encourage you to go a step further by creating written policies and procedures, as well as by designating backups who can perform required duties when needed. Accountability refers to your ability to demonstrate that you've met the CACFP requirements and used your CACFP reimbursements appropriately. Accountability means that your institution or facility follows sound, generally accepted management and accounting practices. That includes maintaining financial records and creating accurate financial reports. Your institution or facility must also have systems in place to ensure fiscal integrity and prevent improper financial activities. At the most basic level, more than one person must review financial records to ensure that funds are being properly used and accounted. Institutions that receive more than $500,000 in federal funding in a given year are also required to obtain an A-133 audit report, which must be conducted by an external accountant in order to verify fiscal responsibility. Finally, nonprofit organizations must have an independent board of directors that oversees operations and has the authority to replace the executive director if needed. There are 3 performance standards: financial viability, administrative capability, and accountability. These were implemented to ensure effective use of federal funds. Since you're receiving taxpayer dollars, the USDA wants to make sure that the money is being used for the intended purpose of serving healthy meals to eligible participants. The state agency is tasked with ensuring compliance with performance standards. The state agency monitors BCA by reviewing financial records and management plans as part of the CACFP application, requesting updates on program operations, and conducting administrative reviews. The state agency is required to conduct a comprehensive review of each institution's operations at least once every 3 years. A review includes the validation of a claim for reimbursement and verification that funds are being used appropriately. In other words, we make sure that you were accurately paid for the correct number of meals that were actually served to eligible participants, and that you use the money to support your CACFP operations in accordance with your budget. If we find that your institution is not BCA, your institution may be subject to financial penalties and, in some cases, termination from the CACFP. The person who is ultimately in charge of ensuring the viability, capability, and accountability of the institution is called the authorized representative. The authorized representative has the final legal, administrative, and financial responsibility for the institution. In the simplest terms, it's where the buck stops in your organization. In a for-profit business, this must be the owner or president. In nonprofit organizations, it is typically the executive director, but it could be the board chair. Either way, both must be listed on the CACFP application, and both must sign the permanent agreement. We will discuss the permanent agreement next. The authorized representative must sign the CACFP application, since this is the only person who can make the decision to participate in a federally funded program. By signing the application and permanent agreement, the authorized representative affirms the truth of the application, acknowledges their approval to participate, and accepts responsibility for compliance. The authorized representative may not necessarily have much involvement in the day-to-day operations of the organization or in running the CACFP. This is especially common in large organizations. The authorized representative may choose to appoint an official designee to manage the CACFP and sign any paperwork on their behalf. However, the authorized representative must understand the performance standards and ensure compliance with CACFP requirements. The authorized representative should delegate responsibilities and duties to the appropriate staff members with adequate qualifications and training. The authorized representative should also maintain oversight of employees with CACFP duties. If the institution is found to have serious compliance issues and fails to take steps to come into full compliance, the authorized representative will be terminated from the CACFP and disqualified from future CACFP participation, along with any additional employees who are identified as responsible for the issues. The permanent agreement mentioned in the previous slide is your contract with the state agency to participate in the Child and Adult Care Food Program in the District of Columbia. The permanent agreement describes the state agency's responsibility to provide oversight and assistance. It also describes your responsibility as an institution to maintain compliance with the performance standards. The authorized representative must also pledge that neither they nor anyone else in a position of authority has ever been terminated from a publicly funded program or convicted of crimes like fraud that indicate a lack of business integrity. Again, the owner or president of a for-profit business or the executive director and board chair of a nonprofit organization must sign the permanent agreement to acknowledge and accept responsibility for the institution's participation in the CACFP. The permanent agreement is, as the name implies, permanent. It remains in effect until explicitly terminated for either cause or convenience by either party. Termination for convenience is without penalty, meaning that there are no repercussions and you may reapply to participate in the CACFP again at any time. For example, if you decide to close your center or determine that CACFP participation is no longer feasible, you can terminate the permanent agreement for convenience. If you have not submitted a claim for several months and stop responding to our communications, the state agency will take action to terminate your permanent agreement for convenience. If we find that you have significant issues with compliance and you fail to correct those issues, though, we will initiate a termination for cause. This will result in the institution and its responsible individuals being disqualified from future CACFP participation. The institution and the individuals do have the opportunity to appeal this termination for cause. However, please don't be discouraged. We're here to support you in staying compliant so that we don't have to issue fiscal sanctions or terminate you from the CACFP. We want you to be viable, capable, and accountable, and it's easy if you follow these steps. 1. Serve compliant meals. In other words, complete balanced meals that include all of the required components in their minimum portions. 2. Collect CACFP records. 3. Maintain those records on file for the required period of time. For almost all records, that's 3 years after the end of the current fiscal year. 4. Spend money appropriately, maintain financial records, and have a financial reserve. We don't specify what an adequate financial reserve is, but again, you have to be able to meet your financial obligations and keep up your usual operations. And finally, you have to attend training from the state agency, and you have to provide training to your staff on their CACFP responsibilities. This helps you to stay in compliance and enhance your operations. To provide some more detail on what records you're required to maintain, here's an overview. On a daily basis, you have to record attendance, verify that all menus show what's actually being served and that the meals meet CACFP requirements, keep delivery tickets and receipts or invoices for food purchases, and record at the point of service the number of meals served. At the point of service means that you have to take the count after you serve a complete meal to each participant. On a monthly basis, you have to prepare and submit your claim for reimbursement, update your master enrollment list if you're required to keep one, and update or plan your menu as needed. Each year, most organizations need to obtain an income eligibility statement for each household. You also need to obtain one for new participants who enroll throughout the year. We also ask you to send updates on your operations throughout the year, such as a change in hours or key staff members. And on an annual basis, we ask you to verify the information that we have on file about your operations. You must also submit a budget for how you're going to use your CACFP reimbursements and support your food service operations. You must also attend CACFP training from the state agency. This allows you to learn about any changes to the program and get a refresher on the requirements. And you also have to train your staff members who have CACFP-related duties. So, in conclusion, you need to ask yourself if your organization is financially viable, administratively capable, and accountable. If you are, we encourage you to participate in the Child and Adult Care Food Program. This slide provides a brief overview of the application process. You're on the first step, which is completing the online training modules and passing the training quizzes. As a reminder, Child Development Center applicants are also required to attend the Division of Early Learning's Foundations course on Nutrition for Early Learners. After you finish the required training, we will send you the CACFP application, which you must complete and submit to the state agency. Then we will provide you with training on income eligibility statements and record keeping. Then the state agency conducts a pre-approval visit to ensure that your operations match what you reported on your application and that you have the capacity to operate the CACFP. Then we finalize your application approval and you implement the program. And throughout all of these steps, the CACFP team is here to support you. This brings us to the end of the CACFP Performance Standards presentation. Now that you have completed this training, you can take the quiz at the link provided. You will need to provide your name, the name of your organization, and your email address, as well as answer some questions about this training. You will need to answer all of the questions correctly in order to pass, but you may take the quiz as many times as necessary. You can also listen to this presentation again. We will contact you regarding your quiz results and let you know the next step in the application process. If you have any questions or if you're interested in finding a sponsor, please contact Norma Burkhead at norma.burkhead@dc.gov. Thanks so much.